Hello, hello, beautiful souls. I'm just taking a photograph of my own new moon intention reading, and that's the topic for tonight. It's such, well, first of all, hello, my name is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. And it's such a pleasure to be here every Thursday night and to talk with like-minded people and to share strategies and ideas and all of our collective knowledge in working with the tarot. And I just absolutely love it. And whether I'm chatting with you here or I'm doing readings, it's just, I don't know, I can't say enough about the power of this medium. It's just such a brilliant, beautiful experience. And tonight I am going to share with you some thoughts on intention, some thoughts on intention spreads, working with new moon energy, decks that support that, in my opinion. And yeah, so that's kind of the topic for tonight. So welcome, and hello to Kyle. Thanks for being here. Hello, Michelle. Welcome, welcome. And to everybody in the background who doesn't participate in the chat, know that it's wonderful to have you here as well, too. I guess I'm going to start. So I just did my little spread. Hello, Joseph. Welcome. I just did a little spread for myself for working through the next 2 weeks. And so let me go back. So new moon. This morning, I was awoken by the new moon energy, perhaps something else as well too. And so I got up at 4 o'clock, did mantra, and sat up in my bed and just tried to really dial it in. A lot of concentration, working with mantra, my own personal mantra and other mantra as well too. And then the energy shifted. So I actually wrote this down, what time it was. So when the new moon, it was, I believe it was in Virgo, and then just before noon shifted into Libra, which was a completely different energy. And as you may or may not be aware, the moon is only in a sun sign for about 2.5 days. So the moon changes signs really quickly. And the more sensitive you are to the lunar energy, the more you can kind of feel it, work with it, and work with it to your advantage. And just in general, since I started working with lunar cycles a lot, life has become a lot easier. And I am a firm believer in working with the energies of the universe so that we act and choose and behave in a way that is not going against the flow. Why not live your life in flow, right? Moving with the natural energies of the universe. So new moon, what does that mean? What does that mean for you? I mean, on a very kind of physical level, it's dark. So you go out for a walk in the evening, there is no light. It is the end of a cycle. So where we are now, we've just started the new cycle. So when it's actual 4 o'clock in the morning was the winding up of the cycle. And as we move through the next few hours, now the moon is beginning to wax, to grow in size, and it's a time to act and to do things. Hello, Marcella, I believe. I'll put my glasses on. Marcella Munoz. Hello from Argentina. Nice to have you here. And so this is one of the things that I have really been revising my thinking on. And I have done very early on in my channel. I believe I did some new moon spreads and things like that, and was talking about decks that I like to use for working with new moon energy. And this has changed. It's really shifted, because when I am now, did I pull? Yeah, let's come over here. The new moon for me is about stepping into action. It's about manifesting. It's about making things happen. It's about actually making the phone calls. It's no longer just the planning, it's the actual doing. It's about making the cold call, going out, advertising. It's about really stepping forth in whatever it is you're doing. And maybe if your intention this month has to do with a particular relationship, it's making the phone call. It is you stepping forward and having the courage to do something about it. And for the most part, when I think about moon decks, when I think about a deck like, for example, the Deviant Moon, which is a brilliant moon energy deck, or I've got lots here on my table, Shadowscapes, generally speaking, decks that are connected to shadow work, decks that help you to see difficult things. These decks, for me, their potency is around the full moon energy. And when I am now, like I said, this is totally shifted, I want fiery decks. I want decks that inspire me, decks that make me feel excited, decks that can really help to get my creative juices going. My passion, make me feel passionate and excited and all that kind of stuff. So those are the kind of decks I want to start talking about first of all. Hello, Anna, My Voice Tarot, and Audrey. Hello, nice to have you here tonight. So that's what I want to put out there first of all, is what decks make you feel passionate? What decks make you feel charged up and fiery and inspired? And when I say that word, another really beautiful metaphor for the lunar cycle is that the first 14 days is the inspiration, the inhale breath. And the 15th to the 28th day is the exhale breath. So that's the letting go. And right now we are breathing in, we are filling up, and we are, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful energy. And as I was deciding I was going to talk about this tonight, started thinking about it, and I went back to my rainbow video, was contemplating that, different chakra videos that I've made, and different decks that I've used for sun energy, fire energy, yellow color, passion and excitement. And so those are decks that make me feel good. And what decks inspire me might not be the same decks that inspire you. And so I really want you to keep that in mind, because in order for you to have a reading that supports your intention and supports the energy of the new moon, you've got to feel that way about the cards that you're lying down on the table. And that could be a Smith-Waite Centennial deck, right? It could be the Deviant Moon that I just showed you, because that's a brand new deck and you are so excited about it and absolutely in love with the colors. And so I want to put that out there, that this is very, very, very personal exercise. So how many of you have done a new moon spread or an intention spread, some kind of a check-in today with the new moon energy? Let me know. And let me know what decks you used. I'm going to talk about a spread that works for me when I'm doing that as well too. So I received my 5-cent tarot. I do not have the first edition. I received the second edition, and I chose the lavender sides. And I did a deck interview with this deck, and it seems that this is going to be a deck that's going to work really well for business and financial type readings. It was loud and clear that that's what this deck's strength was. And so because my intention for this particular new moon has to do with my business, I decided to use this deck. It's also new to me, and it's very, very different with all the keywords written all over it. And I'll share with you some of the cards for those of you that don't have this deck. And in the deck, there are different keywords for reversed position. So in the affirmative, we have share the wealth for the 10 of buttons. Oh, I can talk about the deck interview too. And I can't read it, to stop focusing. Dissipation is for that in the reversed. And it's a very busy deck, and there's all kinds of words all over the cards. And it's going to take me a while to recognize these cards at a glance because it's really quite different. And I'm excited about that. And so I had a really beautiful opening reading. Well, the interview, both the interview and I used it for my intention spread. So this is not a deck I'm going to be using for client readings because of all the words on it. And I find I don't have any decks that have keywords on them like this. And my suspicion is that clients will get stuck on the words on the cards. And if they're reading from the other side of the camera or the other side of the table, they're going to be reading the reverse message words. So it's really quite something. Anna, did you get the deck? Let me know. Anyway, I'm really thrilled about it. It's really kind of fun and exciting. So also with the deck, I received the coin. This is a Kickstarter, and I have never used a coin before. I use a pendulum all the time. And so I shook the coin and threw the coin up in the air, and the yes, it's a yes. It's a yes and a no coin. And the word on the coin totally supported the reading. So it was like, wow, this is gonna work for me. So I'm really happy about that. And I think this would also be a really fun deck to use in a tarot course, because it would mean less going back and forth, especially if you were a beginner and if you were a beginner, and so you wouldn't need to go back and forth to the little white book. It would also provoke a lot of discussion. And even in an advanced course, to work with reversals and to have that kind of conversation. So I'm really excited about this new deck. So I want to go back to the question I asked you earlier, and I will answer Audrey's question about deck interview. I will come back to that. I'm just going to write that down here so I don't forget. I've never done a video on deck interview, so I'm happy to answer that tonight. Is decks that make me feel energetic. And there's actually very few. And I had the same issue when I was doing the rainbow deck tag. The first one that comes to mind, which is an absolute no-brainer, is Tarot of the She. And if I fan out these cards, actually it looks a little bit like the Osho Zen, right? The coloration. There is a lot of orange and yellow in this deck. There's lots of blue and green as well too, but there's a lot of fiery energy. So especially, of course, in the suit of fire, Warrior 10. And I love, love, love the energy of this deck. It makes me feel so excited. And the images on these cards tell such amazing stories. And I love working with this deck. And I think this is one of the very best kind of kick-ass decks to use for setting an intention for new moon. For me anyway, because of that energy that I feel from this deck. So I just really, really love working with this deck. And so perhaps we can do a demo with this one tonight. And then I was thinking, well, besides Tarot of the She, what is a deck that feels wow? Like, holy cow, I'm really going to do this. Can I really do this? Because that's what the new moon is about. It's about, okay, let's go. Let's step forward. There's no more, like, let's not step back. Let's not hold back. Now, I want to qualify this a little bit because sometimes inaction is the best action. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes inaction is the best action. It's the action that is going to serve you the best. So action does not always mean doing. So it's important to understand that. You know, it's a really kind of big yogic teaching that inaction can be as strong as action. And that's a wisdom kind of decision when we come to that point. But another deck that really makes me feel fired up, and again, I'm going to fan the cards, because if you look at the intensity of the colors in this deck, in the Marielle, you feel that, right? You feel that charge, the passion. And I believe that even if you were to not refer to the guidebook, the Abyss, the Landscape of the Abyss guidebook, and simply use the inspiration of the images for an intention spread, that you could get some kind of crazy information, like really, really just work with the artwork. And even there's an intensity in the water in this deck. My favorite card in this deck is the one with the tiger. I just, it's probably not going to be near the top. I'm sure most of you have this deck, but anytime I get a reading with the Temperance card, and I think this is a perfect example of a little bit about what I was talking about. So there is strength in inaction. And isn't that what Temperance is? Question. So yeah. Let me go to the chat because I see there's a few people have joined us and there's some other interesting comments. So I'm going to go back. Hello, Jen, Alina. I'm going to go back to see who's here. Oh, so you don't have an Anna. Okay. Jen's waiting on hers to arrive. Elena. And Michelle says, oh, Michelle's not feeling very great today. Sorry to hear that. You're starting to feel the lockdown. really extreme and unhappy. And, you know, the oppression, this is something else I want to ask too, that I'm going to touch on today, is there's quite a few questions I want to talk about these two decks also, about feeling charged up and why they inspire me. I want to come back to that. But I think Michelle's comment is really valid here. When I do a new moon reading or an intention reading, sometimes I rush into it and I don't give it a lot of thought. But if I am reflecting like I have been today, because I was going to do a video about it, I like to take my time in regrouping. So I went back and I was thinking and contemplating on 2020 being a 4-year. And who would have thought that in January, that the restriction of the 4, the solidity, the cage of the 4 was going to be lockdown. And if you think about 4 and you think about lockdown and you think about being in a prison, being in a cage, being in a solid structure, the structure of 4, right? The restriction of 4. Wow. Like when I did those readings in January, never in a million years. And maybe if I went back and had a look at them again, and I could have, maybe I can see the evolution and the experience that we're all having with the COVID and redo those readings, because there's something about that. And maybe I will never look at the solidity of 4 in the same way, you know, when that number 4 comes up. So restriction takes on all kinds of forms. And I feel I'm not the personality, I'm not the energy that thrives in, I've never ever liked to be told what to do. Now, I love organization. I'm an organization freak. I like things neat and tidy and organized. I like to know where things are, but I don't like that to be imposed on me. So that's a different thing. So my relationship with control is certainly way better than it used to be. And yeah, so there's something about that. So I was reflecting on that piece. And then looking at your year ahead spread, if you did one, or if you did some kind of a spread looking as an overview of the year, do you check in with that from month to month? Do you go back and check in, or is that just something you do once a year and you never look at it again? And so for me, that check-in is really important, to maybe read what I wrote a few months ago, and also to have a look at the cards and the cards in that relationship, because, and in relation to the number 4. So it's all this kind of going back and regrouping is really, really important. And then we all have a card of the year, and depending on how you calculate it and so forth. And I've talked about that as well too in different videos, but that card of the year is still in progress. And depending on how we've been processing it or avoiding it, we may or may not be anywhere near done with the energy of that card. So my card for 2020 was the Devil, and I may do a follow-up video. I did a video on the Devil card. And now that, especially Michelle's question is prompting me to think, well, how does your card of the year behave when it is restricted? So if you put your tarot card for the year into a box, is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Can it develop? Does it thrive? Because perhaps there are some tarot cards that thrive in a box and some that don't. And that may also be affected by so many other things. So this kind of reflection from time to time, month to month, every other month or so, is really important, and it's played a big role in the interpretation of readings, because if you forget to go back and do that, you're kind of going blindly from month to month. So just a little bit of food for thought. So I want to share with you these two decks, and I'm going to tell you why they inspire me and why I think they work really well for me for intention readings. Hello, Veronica. Kyle says, I like the Shimmering Veil Tarot. Ooh, okay. I can't remember if I looked at that one or not. I'll have to have a look. Yes. I'm looking at My Voice Tarot. My Voice Tarot says they read very intuitively, and keywords can be a bit of a problem. So I'm finding this deck, and I didn't open it when I first got it because I didn't have the time to give it any time. I'm finding it kind of playful right now. That's how I'm feeling about it, because I also read very, very intuitively. So we'll see what happens. And I think because there's a lot of different things going on, that I'll be reading it very much in a Marseille style. And I'm looking at this 5 of Matches with the spiders crawling up in different directions. And I'm really kind of liking the potential for connecting the different creatures on the deck and things like that. Wow, you cannot work for, you haven't been able to, what's this? Just a sec, I'm going to reread this. Melbourne, Australia is still in extreme lockdown. We are isolated from all of Australia, cannot work for 12 weeks, cannot leave our home. And it is just devastating. The hardest thing mentally. Yeah, I cannot imagine. Well, we all send you love and light and support in every way that we can. And I will dedicate a reading to you tonight. Yeah, for sure. My gift to you. So this deck, the Muse Tarot, is kind of a fun deck. Feminine, which is, so here's a thought. This deck also super colorful, right? Lots of orange and yellow. Yeah, there's lots of green too, but there's also lots of orange and yellow in this deck. And feminine energy. Females on the cards. I don't think there's guys on any of the cards. There might be one in the deck. And so that kind of connects to lunar, right? Left side of the body, lunar energy. And it kind of charges me up. So I think for that reason, this might be a perfect deck for some people for intention readings, especially if you are, if you connect with the art on this deck. I can see and feel the inspiration of a card like this, or like this, even like this. Like this is a pretty powerful card. So the young women in this card too feel strong. And then the other one that I pulled out, which might seem absolutely crazy to you as far as like inspiration, is a fairy deck. And this is the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. And the reason that I love this deck for getting going, for feeling like, okay, guide me, tell me what to do, is that there is so much power in this deck. So much power. And sometimes that strength is internal wisdom. Sometimes it is connection. There's just something about this deck that makes me feel strong. And yes, it's not a diverse deck. Everybody on this deck is white. There's a few different body types and ages and so forth. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about that. So for that reason, this deck might not resonate with a lot of people in that regard. And so I want you to just think of the key words that I've been using. And so when you're choosing a deck for intention setting, choose a deck that gets you fired up, that makes you feel charged. That seems to be what energetically connects with the waxing moon for me. Because every new moon, I feel like, okay, I kind of sort of know I'm working on the same old thing. I'm working on something similar, but I need guidance. And so those are the kind of decks more recently, I've been going to. And then the other lunar decks, the ones that I used to use, are definitely kind of full moon energy. So this has really been a big shift for me. So think about the yellows and the oranges and the passion and all of that. I am, Audrey says something about the Muse Tarot. Hers is powerful. My voice tarot, love-hate relationship with the Muse. I haven't used it a lot, so I do not have a strong relationship with the deck. Oh, you're a collage artist. That's interesting. And Audrey says her Muse is powerful. So, like I said, it's very, very personal. It's very, very personal. Okay, so I want to go back to Audrey's question before I go on, because there's a few things I want to talk about intention setting and the intention setting spread. And that was, she asked about the deck interview. And I'll just very quickly do a little bit of a demo, just so you can kind of get the feel for it. I tend to do 5 cards, about 5 cards. So I can do one for, none of these are new decks here. And I just did one for this. So I'm going to do, well, I haven't pulled out the Moonchild for a while. So why don't we do it with the moon? Except it's too big to riffle shuffle and I don't feel like overhand shuffling it right now. Okay, let's go to the Guardian. I pulled out the Guardian tonight because there's so many moons on it. And then I started thinking, well, I'm not going to use this deck because it is too moony. It's not fiery. But I'm going to do a deck interview spread with the Guardian Tarot. So the first question with a deck interview spread is the overall energy of the deck. So that means it's going to talk about its dominant energy. And for me, that is going to relate to the elements. And depending on the card that comes up and the way the card is portrayed in that particular artwork, something else may arise. So we're going to start with that. So I'm just going to cut the deck. So this is a deck interview spread for the Guardian Tarot by Beth Slonin. So that card goes into the center. And then we have strengths and weaknesses. This is up at the top. So you're upside down for me, and I'll flip the cards after. And then I have 2 other cards. And depending on my mood, sometimes these 2 cards take on different questions. One of the, usually this card here is, what am I going to learn from this deck? So that means something that I might not normally pick up on in a tarot deck. So there's some unique characteristic or something that's particular to me and to me learning with this tarot. So yeah, so that's usually what this card is about here. And then over here, there's so many different questions that I ask, and I'm trying to think about, because I actually wrote some notes down because I was doing the deck interview with this card here today. And this has to do with, so if this is what can I learn, this could also be kind of light energy. It might show up. It also might show up as shadow energy. And so in a lot of deck interview spreads, this one is the challenge. And this one is like, what am I going to learn? And this is, how are you going to challenge me? That kind of question. But I really feel that you can get all of that information here. All right. And so over here is more of a question. This is more about the journey with this particular card. So the best way to work with you. So the strategy to work with you. So is that going to be in small spreads? Is it going to be in big spreads? Is it going to be in daily draws? And I'll tell you how I'll get that information after. It's going to be like, is it a seasonal deck? Is it, so I want to clarify this. So this is the overall energy of the deck. This is the deck's strengths, the deck's weaknesses. And this is, what am I going to learn from the deck? And then this is about the way to use the deck. So think about the word way, method. Okay. So if I were to interpret these cards, so this is not a new deck to me. And I'll turn these over in a second. So, and this is actually perfect. The overall energy of this deck is the 5 of Swords. And I want you to look at this card and how this card makes you feel. And in general, this deck makes me feel this way. It makes me feel kind of sad. It reminds me that we can never do enough for the environment. We can never do enough for the trees. And that to lose sight of this mood is naivety. So that absolutely fits perfectly. The deck's strengths, love this sweet card, are the Queen of Cups, and the weaknesses are the 4 of Wands. So the strengths of this deck are talking about emotions and connection with people and connection in general, not necessarily with people, but in relationship. It's highly intuitive, right? So that's the strength of this deck. The weakness of this deck is the 4, the structure, the solidity. And if you think of, I believe this one says 4 of Wands, but the weakness of this deck is in being held. It's in stability. And 4 of Wands, yes, it's a card of celebration if you read it RWS way. But this deck, its weakness is in the 4s. Its weakness is in, I don't know how to articulate this. This is quite challenging. Let me come back to that. Okay, so what is real? Oh, this is so funny because this is a card. I love this card when it comes up. So what is unexpected in this deck? And down here, I've got the 9 of Cups. So who would expect such fulfillment and joy from such a forlorn looking deck? So what I'm going to learn from this deck is that it really has the potential to bring joy and light and love if we can work with its strength, which is in really feeling the connections and the energy of connection. Okay. And then over here, I was talking about the method, the way to work with it. And this also might be the area where I decide if this is going to be a deck for me or it's going to be a deck for reading with other people, that kind of thing. And so the card here, again, I love this card. So we have the sun. The sun is reflected in the high heart chakra, reflected in the water. This is the King of Pentacles, but there's a lot of different elements represented in this particular King of Pentacles. And I love that the sun is rising or setting, depending on how you see it, in the high heart chakra. I also like that we have the leaves that look very much like feathers and so forth here, coming down on the side. It's just such a balanced card. And if you've heard me talk about the Suit of Pentacles before, the Suit of Pentacles is like the accumulation of all of the elements. And the King of Pentacles is the most stable and grounded and self-assured in his own skin, nothing to prove, of the kings, of the court cards. And so what is the method? What is the method for this deck? The method for this deck is in, and this seems a little bit contradictory to this Four of Wands that's up here, because I was really feeling that its weakness is in structure. But the method has to do with, well, one could be that the court cards are going to, we could take it quite simply, the court cards are going to really help to tell the story and to rely on the court cards. So that's one thing I might pick up from here. I might also pick up that this is a deck that's about the journey. So the king is at the end of the minor suit. So this could also be a deck that takes several cards to tell a story. And so I allow my inner conversations and my journaling to evolve, but that's kind of the process I go through when I'm doing a deck interview. So I hope that was helpful to some of you. All right, so I'm just going to go back here, see where we're at. Oh, yes, keep us posted on your artwork. That would be amazing. So the center card, you wanted to ask again, the center card is the overall energy of the deck. The overall energy. And so this deck is not afraid to be sad. It doesn't qualify. It doesn't need to qualify sadness. And I was talking about in this particular deck, we can't ever forget, because this deck is about caring for the environment. It's about our relationship with the environment. And this just makes me understand that we can never give up. We can never do enough. And so this is the overall energy of the deck. Hello to Dion. Okay, and another question here. The way you talk about the Guardian deck makes me want to get it. I was never sure about it until I started watching your channel. It's not a deck I use a lot. It's a very, very special energy. There's supposed to be tree communicators Ah, but they remind you of aliens. Yeah, I know a lot of people feel that way about this deck. And so how many of you have actually done, I don't know what you call it. It's like you sit like a distance from a large tree. Large tree is easier. And you kind of get into liminal space, blur the vision, do a little breath work, put some meditative music on your headphones or whatever you need to do. And then you look at a tree and you look at the tree's aura. And so you look around the edge of the tree, around the beyond the leaves, beyond the branches. And it's really quite a profound exercise. It's one of the ways you can get into this. Another one, and that is just simply to be in the trees. And I'm in the trees every single day, pretty much. Excuse me. So I talk to the trees. I place my hands on the trees. I feel the trees. I have my favorite trees. I talk to the ants. I observe the ants, observe their changes, photograph them. It's comfortable for me and it's accessible for me. So it might not be a deck for somebody who doesn't feel comfortable with the trees or in the trees. So that might be another consideration as well too. So I want to go back to intentions. I want to go back to new moon energy and why I feel that this is it's just so important to set intentions. Because if we skip through life without pausing, and just like I'm all for, let it be guided, be in trust. But if we don't stop and regroup and do, we get a little bit lost. And I really find the monthly check-in, I check in more often at the new moon than I do at the full moon. Because the new moon has so much power to it and potential. And I love working with potential. And I love working with inspiration because it's the inspiration that kind of makes you feel high, right? Rather than the expiration. So yeah. So let's go through and do an inspiration kind of new moon spread. So a waxing spread. And I'm going to choose, well, I've got quite a few decks here on the table. So I'm going to choose, actually, you know what? I'm going to pull my little trimmed Llewellyn here, which I just pulled out today. I love this little deck. I really do. I really love this deck. And the reason I pulled it out was I was starting to think, okay, I need to get some more there's also lots of orange, yellow in this deck. Now I see lots of blue when I'm showing you on the camera. But it's a very fall looking deck. Feels that way to me. So after regrouping, journaling, contemplating my card of the year, contemplating my cards that are around the month of September, and so in relation to what Michelle was saying, I did, and I'm going to talk about my own intention because it's the best way to do an example, is that I let my website slide. I did it when COVID hit. I did a little bit of regrouping on the website. I shifted a few things to online classes, and other things I just didn't pay attention to because I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, 2 months, 3 months, How could this possibly go on until December or for a year or 2 years or however long this is going to go on to? Never in my wildest dreams did I think. And so September rolls around. Actually, it was 2 days ago, and I freaked out. I quite literally freaked out because my website, there was so much work that needed doing. I had let so many things go. Granted, I had a death in the family and kids were moving home and other stuff was going on and business wasn't my top priority. But I literally freaked out a couple days ago. So my intention now is to regroup and recharge and guns a-blazing go into the fall with a whole new approach. And I raised my prices a little bit, and I'm just taking charge again. And so when I did the spread before, it was just absolutely in support of everything intuitively that I was sensing I needed to do. And there was a little bit of extra guidance in there. And I got the yes coin. So that was all perfect. Now, I want you to remember what I said earlier. Sometimes there is the best action is inaction. Okay? All right. So shuffling the cards and really bringing in my intention. So my intention is to shift the way I do business and to be, it's about shifting the way that I do business. So there's no public classes. Everything is online. I'm completely working at home. And how in the world am I possibly going to do this? Other things could fall in the way. So the very first question is, what is the most important thing I need to know about the next, so with the waxing moon, just the first few days. So that's the first question. What's the most important thing I need to know about? Okay, so a card jumped out. We'll have a look at that in a moment. The first few days. So as the moon begins to reveal itself, and I love to, God's thumbnail, have you ever heard that? That was from a movie years ago. The most important thing I need to know about the next few days. And I'm going to do 5 cards and just place them in the shape of a waxing moon. And I will tell you how I interpret those as we go through. And then we have this jumper card here, which is the 2 of Pentacles. Of course, there's going to be juggling. But the good thing is that it's coins, right? It's about money. And it means there's going to be money coming in, which is another issue. Because I've lost a lot of my classes and my students with teaching locally. Okay, so over the next 2 or 3 days, the most important thing is the Queen of Swords. This is really funny, actually. So the most important thing is the Queen of Swords. And so what is the Queen of Swords? She is articulate. And this is about the voice and speaking and getting the information out there. It's about saying what you need to say and not qualifying it. So really believing in what I have to say. So this really sits in alignment. I've been making a lot of videos about what it is that I want to teach, being totally authentic to who I am, right? I'm at this point right now where I'm not, I don't know if that I ever was, but there was, this need to please people. But I really feel like I'm standing in my authenticity. So this really supports the need to continue to make videos, to that the language around the blogs, the posts, everything that I'm making is important. So I do need to focus on the communication, right? So that feels right. So this is something over the next few days that I really need to work on. And as the moon begins to grow, and if I am able to work with this, how can I, what else will support this most important card? So generally speaking, in any tarot spread, the first card is the most important spread. It's the way that I look at things. And so in order to support the communication, in order to support my authenticity as the Queen of Swords, we have the Queen of Wands. So the Queen of Wands is, right? This is just perfect. This is about me taking charge again and being the other piece about this too, which is really interesting, is that as a businesswoman, I am very mindful of being gentle, being compassionate, being receptive, and to embody the full characteristics of the queens in the way that they are so strong, they are so powerful, and yet they are so feminine. And my card for September is Temperance. Okay? My card for September is Temperance. And Temperance is about that, right? It's about that play with the fire and the water, and to really embrace the beauty of the qualities of both. So start with the first card, which is the most important focus over the first few days. And then you can bring in the flair. So the flair and the finesse and the more of the passion of the Queen of Wands is like next. But really make sure you're honing in on your authenticity, Sadhana. Okay? And then and I'm reminded of this card that's sitting over here, which I don't really want to see. The next card is about, so the energy of Ganesh, obstacles. Obstacles sometimes are put in our place because we need to go in a different direction. They're not always a bad thing. And so I look at this card over here as if there's something that I need to regroup about, or will I need to take is there a different action? This is not looking to the future, but this is looking for sorry, I'm having a hard time finding my words. What is going to stand in my way? What is going to stand in my way? And that might not necessarily be a bad thing. That's what I want to say. So what is standing in your way often it could be a mirror. It could be something that takes you in a slightly different direction. And often what I do when I do a new moon spread is I put all the cards down, and then I don't necessarily analyze all of them at the same time, because I really like to focus on this card down here at the bottom. So what my obstacle is the moon. Sorry, that's not the moon. This is the The universe. Now, what is this card? Oh, I haven't had this deck out for a while. The star. This is the star. Bear with me. I just need to confirm this. Just a second. I'm just going to double check this card. I've cut everything off this deck. That's so funny. I put in car. Yeah, it's the star. Okay. All right. Excellent. So my obstacle is the star. So how in the world can the star card be an obstacle? Or how in the world can the star card redirect you in a different direction? And that might not be something I have the answer to at this time. It may reveal itself as the moon begins to wax. And so this is something that I'm going to reflect upon and be mindful. Now, in this particular deck, it is, and I also, in the background, I'm looking at the stone circle in the background. And there's something about the energy of that stone circle. And one of the things that's coming up for me right now is getting lost in nature, which I do a lot. And so what my obstacle might be is that I need kind of to stay focused and stay in and stay at home and stay really kind of directed on what I'm doing until there is progress. Okay, so this is the most important thing right here, right now. This card is about what is going to support this card, and this is about some kind of an obstacle, something that's going to redirect, something that might, and in this case, lead me astray. Lead me astray. When what I need to be doing is focusing on this right now. So we're talking about 2 weeks. And for me, this spread is mostly about, I would say, the first 9 or 10 days. Because as we get close to the full moon, the energy completely shifts. So I want to focus on this over about a 10-day period. Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. So this card that hopped out is the Two of Pentacles. The card at the top of the waxing moon spread is the Ten of Swords. The card just before it is the Four of Pentacles. Okay. All right. So the Four of Pentacles. So the positions in this spread are going to tell a story. They're going to tell a story as I begin to work with my particular issue, what is going to arise and how I'm going to best work through it. Or maybe seeing, in this case, there's a couple of different obstacles here that are arising. And so in this spread, in the 4th and the 5th position, I may not necessarily have an assigned meaning. I might often, I'm looking at specific days, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 days. But in this case, I have a couple of challenging cards here. So I am going to kind of reflect on all 3 of these as ways to kind of keep me hunkered down for what it is I have to do. And this card that flew out is also speaking to that, okay, I need to keep my feet on the ground and not get lost in the clouds. And there's a reason that this perfect card fell out for this intention that I'm working on. And so it's an organic spread, but the first three are definitely like, I know how I'm going to talk to the cards during these first three cards. And then this whole kind of waxing energy tells a tale. So that's what I do. That's what I do. And the energy of this is a little bit different than the spread I did before we came on, but this is really interesting information. And I'm going to take a photograph of this and heed this, and you know, this message here for me. Yes, I can definitely post this. So I'm going to go back to see what else I've missed out on here. Okay. Audrey practices Vedic astrology. That's really interesting, Audrey. I have Jyotish, is that what it's called? I've wanted to take courses and begin my journey with that study for some time, but I don't know if that's going to happen in this lifetime. Yeah, that's really interesting information. So thank you for sharing that. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. The new moon tends to have negative connotation, just like Saturn might, but it's very powerful. Did you do a reading on setting your intention? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And so I had my little freak out. And then what I did was, okay, is this my ego? Is this my ego? Is this my insanity? Is this COVID? And so yes. So I did a reading on a check-in reading on this is what I need to focus on right now. So yes is the answer to that question. All right. And then I see Jonathan's comment. Did Jonathan? Oh, okay. So then Jonathan, hello, Jonathan. Waxing moons are said to be more evolving, moving from witness to perception, whereas waning is the opposite. So introversion to self-reflection. Witness to manifest. Witness to manifest. Okay, so that's a little bit different way of thinking. And yes, I can post the spread on my Facebook page. I will draw it out for you. Crescent waxing, depending on if it's closer to the new moon or the half moon, are considered rajasic. So the first crescent waxing are considered rajasic. So that makes sense. Action, action, action. So rajas is the fiery energy connected to the pitta dosha. Passion, creative, energetic. Okay. That's so cool. Oh, we could all take Audrey's Jyotish classes. That would be great. Okay. All right. So yeah, so that is, I'm going to leave this here because I'm actually going to take a photo of this. This is really interesting how these cards came up. And I'm going to check in with my list of everything I wanted to talk about tonight. So, my list. And I want to say that this is definitely, things are always evolving for me, but I feel really comfortable with everything that I've shared with you here tonight. And oh, I know the other piece. Okay, so if you are reading astrology, and if you have like a journal, like the Wee Moon Journal, which is actually created in Vancouver, BC. I think I've shared it on my website before, or on this channel before, where you have handy reference to the moon, the sign that the moon is in every couple of days, and when it's shifting. Then you can also have a look at these cards in relationship to the moon moving through the sun signs. So if this is the energy of the sun in Libra, sorry, the moon, if this is the energy of the moon in Libra, this is the energy of the moon in Capricorn. And when it gets into Sag, this is the energy in Sag. So if you are reading, if you're aware of that information, then sometimes I also do that as well too, right? So when we get to the full moon in this month, there's 2 in October, October 1st and October 31st. That's really exciting. So we have a blue moon on Halloween, which is amazing. So the harvest moon is October 1st, I believe is in Aries, which is really cool. That's the energy. So if you are aware of and this is Western astrology, of course, and I say that because there's so many systems of astrology, and I'm not an astrologer, but I do dabble in it. I find that it's really interesting. And also on my phone, so on my phone, and I'll go to the app. I don't know if this is going to show with the lighting. So just a second. I want to go back. Current. Okay. So on this app, every day I can read and check in. So right now it tells me the moon is in Libra. And this has nothing to do with my chart. This is just on part of this app. There's just this general information. So it tells me the moon spends 2.5 days in each sign. With the moon in Libra, a partnering impulse comes to the surface. Today, you and everyone around you will likely be feeling a strong need to relate and collaborate. It might be difficult for you to identify your emotions without a sounding board. So this app is really great because if you are doing moon work, I have an easy reference, and I can look at, okay, today's the moon is in Libra, and I can know exactly when the moon is going to transition into Capricorn. Is that right? Yes. And when it's going to be in Sagittarius. And so I know that my natal moon is in Capricorn. And so I always pay attention to when the moon is in Capricorn, because that is also my natal moon sign. And so this app, which is called Time Passages, I have found it's a really nice reference. So I can put in to this app my chart, my natal chart, as well as all my kids' charts, and it's a really great app. So I like working with that. So yeah, it's called Time Passages. And I will just double check on that. Yeah, and I'll show you the icon. The icon is the one down on the bottom right. So yeah. Hello, and thanks for joining us. So yeah, so that's it. That's a wrap for tonight. I'm sure there's other things down here, but I think that's enough food for thought tonight. So let me know what decks empower you and make you feel, in Audrey's and in the Ayurvedic terminology, Rajasic. So Rajasic is fiery and charged. So let me know about that. And yeah, so do you have a practice where you set intentions around the new moon? And I for sure I'll post this spread. I'll create a little picture and I'll post it in the community tab on YouTube, and I'll post it on my Instagram and Facebook so you can see that soon. So thank you. Is there anything else you want to ask me before I sign off? Anything else? Oh, you're so welcome, Michelle. I hope that you feel a lot better. So you know what? I'm going to pull a card. One card for Michelle, and then I'll go. One card for Michelle. So why don't we all just take a breath in and a breath out and send loving, light, sparkly energy to Michelle with the intention of raising frequency, helping her feel a little more expansive and light, helping her to breathe more easily, to move into a place of trust. And this message is also for all of you who are watching this now and in the playback who completely understand how Michelle is feeling. And so in support of that intention, this card is for you. So first of all, a big bear hug. And the other thing that I want to say about the heart is that one of the greatest medicines, and you've all heard me talk about this before, is the unconditional love. So be kind to yourself. Practice self-compassion and self-love. And ask yourself in all of your choices that you make, would I do this if I loved myself? And how much do I love myself, right? To make myself a priority and to really focus on the self-care for my mental health, my mental well-being, my spiritual well-being, and my physical well-being, right? Self-love. Unconditional love for you, for yourself. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Stay well, and I look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. Namaste.